If your soul feels stretched thin and you're running on empty, this conversation is your lifeline. Edie Melson will show you how creativity, yes, even coloring, journaling, and play can become sacred tools for healing and connection with God. Don't miss this episode. Your weary heart needs what's inside today. Welcome to Warfare Parenting, faith-driven strategies for struggling parents of teens and adult children. I'm your host, Laine Lawson Craft. You're in the right place if you're battling with prodigal children, facing family crises, or seeking spiritual guidance in parenting. Today, we'll equip you with powerful biblical strategies to reclaim your child's destiny and restore hope in your family. Let's step into this faith-filled journey of hope and healing together. Welcome back to the Warfare Parenting Podcast, where we bring hope to the hurting and strength to the weary. Today, we're diving into a powerful conversation with my friend Edie Melson, author of Soul Care, When You're Weary. In a world that's spinning faster by the day and where peace feels like a luxury, Edie brings us sacred reminder. Soul care isn't optional. It's essential. Through devotions, prayers, and creative expressive like journaling, drawing, and creative expressions like engaging your God with your creativity can restore what life has drained out of you. If you're feeling burnout, stressed out, or spiritually empty, you're about to discover practical ways to reconnect with God and give your soul the rest it's been crying for. Welcome, Edie. I'm so excited. So many of us can identify today with weariness. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. And I think you're right. We are all just incredibly weary. I rarely talk to anybody who is not just stressed and exhausted.
It's true. And we were just talking in a previous podcast I was doing about just the mundane and the pull on us on this everyday grind. There seems to be this everyday grind on top of all of us, and it does make us weary. And you've got so many great things for us today. I wanted to just start off right in this interview with how have you, Edie, used creativity to forge a connection with God during your difficult times?
Well, that's actually the way the book series started. I was in the middle of helping and supporting my mother and my sister as we cared for my dad, who was finishing up his 10-year battle with Alzheimer's. And I had a book due, and all kinds of chaos was going on. And I remember sitting in the parking lot of the assisted living where Daddy had just been put into hospice and crying out to God and saying, I know I can't get through this next bit without you, but I don't have anything left. I don't
Mm.
have time for Bible study. The truth was that at night, I often fell asleep before I said amen when I was praying. I was just so exhausted. And I felt like God really impressed on me that it wasn't up to me to do the work to connect with Him. He asked me to give Him the in between moments of this chaotic life and let Him multiply that time and give me the strength I needed. And since I'm a creative, those little in between times came out in taking photographs or doodling in a journal or writing a quick poem or just taking a walk and looking at the clouds. But without that kind of connection, I don't know how I would have made it.
Well, this is so important, Edie. Everyone listening, most of my listeners are weary in a battle for their children. I mean, they've been praying on their knees. They might even had a turnaround and maybe somebody's backtracked in their walk. It is so important. I had to learn the hard way myself to take care of ourselves. And today you're helping us take care of our soul. And I just think it is so amazing that God was able to use your creative gifts that He gave you, those very things that seem like luxuries really in a weary time, to heal you and to keep you going, to keep you from striving. I think we find ourselves striving when we're weary because it's so hard. You have a heritage to this. I want you to share with us a little bit about your creative heritage.
Yeah, I did grow up in an unusual family. I grew up in the 60s. My dad was a music professor, professional musician, turned freelance landscape photographer, and my mother is an internationally known watercolorist. And so during daddy's breaks from college, he would load my sister and I and my mother and her paints and his photographs into a VW bus, and we would travel the United States. So, yes, I was that person in the 60s. And I really thought growing up that if I hadn't had creativity that came out in some shape or form, they might have kicked me out of the family.
Well, that's so cool. My sister's husband just won a VW, old VW bus, and we're calling it Birdie the VW bus. It is so cute. So that is so funny, Edie. Edie, you've written a whole series of soul care, and they're so powerful. And today we are focusing on weariness. What inspired you to do this whole series?
Well, like I said, I was in this place with my dad and I needed rest. I needed a way to connect with God that would fill me up and I didn't have the time. So I started carrying a little blank notebook and at a lot of restaurants they give you a 4-pack of crayons or colored pencils. I had a 4-pack that I stuck in my purse. And when I was sitting either at the assisted living or at a doctor's appointment, I would just pull that out and I might doodle the word faith and draw
Ooh.
around it, or frustration or fear. And as I did that, it's like something let go. The tension broke in my soul, and God began to speak his truth. All those Bible verses I'd grown up with, all those hymns, all those praise songs, just all that truth. And he would use that to fill me up. And I got confirmation one day that I was on the right track. I had kind of a day. And I had made myself a Diet Coke. And I thought, okay, I'll use one of my pretty glasses and then just sit down and try to catch my breath. So it as soon as I had finished, I turned around to put something back in the refrigerator and I caught that glass and it went flying and shattered on the floor and ice went everywhere and I just burst into tears. So my husband comes running, and instead of putting me in timeout or fussing, he said, "That's it. I will fix you a Coke. Go on the back porch and you take time with God. You need to journal."
Ooh.
And he was right. That's
Wow.
what I needed. And so by doing that and by playing again with God, I began to find that joy. And we know the joy of the Lord is our strength. And it worked. And I even had people ask me, "What's different? How is this helping?" So it was amazing.
Well, what's interesting, I literally just saw something about anxiety because I think sometimes weariness can be anxiety because we're so anxious about everything. It makes us grow weary. That when you name, like when you're facing maybe a panic attack or anxiety stricken, if you name what your thoughts are, like, if you name, hey, my unbelief is too great right now, like you could put unbelief, that God, you bring it to the light and it allows God to meet you there. And that's what you're telling us today, to journal those emotions to help us process to healing. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. And for those of you who are listening and you're like, "I am not creative. I do not journal anything." I hate to tell you, but you have a legacy from our Heavenly Father of creativity. It may come out in the way you decorate your house, the clothing you choose, the fact that you like to walk and sing or dance or look at the clouds. All kinds of things fall into creativity. Cooking is creative. And so what we have to do is we have to drill into those creative gifts that God has given us and let Him use that as a doorway to fellowship with Him so that we can connect with His strength instead of relying on our own.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because you do hear a lot of people say, "Well, I don't have anything, a creative bone in my body." But they do because they're made by the maker, the master of creation, and they do. And so I'm glad you challenged us today to dig deep and say, is it my cooking or is it, what is it that I have? I that leads me to my next question. What is your favorite creative pursuit?
My husband wishes I would find one because I have far too many. Of course, my first creative outlet is always writing. I mean, I've been a writer, my mother says, since I could crawl to a white wall with a red crayon. I don't know
Wow.
if that's true, but that's what she tells people. The other thing, of course, is photography. For some reason, when God narrows my view by looking through a viewfinder, trying to find a subject, suddenly he opens up a whole new world of insight and truth that helps me.
That's so powerful. Well, Edie, real quickly, I really, while we've got everybody listening in, you in this series, would you go over what all is in the series and if you plan for any additional that we don't know about yet?
Well, right now, there are four books in this series of Soul Care When You're Weary, Soul Care for Writers or Creatives, Soul Care When You're Grieving, and Soul Care When the Nest is Empty. And now we're looking at some other possible additions, but we don't have anything in the pipeline right now.
Well, I'm so excited we're kind of relaunching these books, and it's so exciting because I'm telling you, Edie, looking through the last 10 years of my life, as a mother and now a grandmother, and I've been a caretaker of my husband that's had cancer. Um, it is essential. It really is essential that we take care of our souls. And you are helping us do that in so many ways. You talk a lot about journaling. How has that really impacted you? Do you think it was a real key component of your personal healing?
I know it was. We had our oldest son went straight from high school to Marine Corps boot camp to two tours in Iraq as a frontline infantry Marine. He went to war at 18. And it was the fact that I could go to that journal and I could pour out all of my stress and all of the prayers. Now, it's not a pretty journal. Okay, it has a really pretty cover, but the inside is a train wreck. Because our thoughts don't always come out in order or in anything that we necessarily want to share with everybody. But the fact was, by being able to get out, like you said, naming it, processing it. For some of us, journaling is not an option. Maybe we need to talk it out. Maybe we need to sing it out. But for me, actually writing it down, so many of the fears that I had, when I wrote them down, I could see, number one, how unlikely they were that this particular thing would come to pass. Number two, I could see the ones that actually physically couldn't come to pass. And number three, as I wrote them out, I could hear God's, I don't want to say his voice because I didn't hear an audible voice, but he impressed in my soul the fact that he was already there, that he
Yeah.
was already meeting my concerns before I could even name them, and just gave me such peace. So I would challenge you, don't worry what your journal looks like. For years, I used to buy these gorgeous journals and then I would hate to use them because I didn't want to mess them up. But the fact is, messing them up is what they're there for. And
Well,
that's where the beauty
it makes
is.
me want to go to the back cover if you don't mind, because I love what you say on all of these. It says, warning, this book may become dog eared and stained. Draw in it, experiment with your creative passion, learn the healing power of play, allow God's power to flow through creativity. Soul care. When you're weary, will become your heart's treasure. I mean, what you're saying is, we're validating these emotions. And if they're negative, you're allowing to bring it to the light for God to meet you there. And it is powerful. And I love the way you said, Edie, I kind of get bogged down in journaling. I'm just being honest. I'm more of as you can tell, I love to talk. So a lot of times I'll just turn on my voice notes. I'll speak into it, and a lot of times it'll do this to the text and be kept in my notes. There are many ways today to channel these, and you help us so much with that. I have to ask, did journaling help you become a better writer? Is that what inspired you to write? I mean, how did those come hand in hand for you?
Well, I process the world through words, through written words. It helps me make sense of the things that are inconceivable. And so what ended up happening though is those precious journals from my son's deployments, they became three different books for military families. The journals of prayers that I kept for years and years when I prayed for my kids became a book of prayer for my kids. And these soul care books, the soul care when you're weary, so many of the prayers that I prayed for myself when I was exhausted ended up in that book. So what I was able to do is I was processing, but after I had processed, I could go back and I could let readers know that I've been there. I understand. And this is how God met me, and he will meet you too.
Well, that just guides us all again into this soul care that you have done. I have here, you're a woman of prayer. You pray all the time. Does this help you feed into the connection of God? Do you think it's an essential part of that connection with God?
I absolutely do, although I have a confession to make. For years, I was terrified about prayer because I felt like I was doing it wrong. Particularly when my kids were growing up, I wanted to be the type of person who could pray a strong enough prayer and in the right way that it would get God's attention so that he would take care of my kids. And that's all backwards. It's not about me doing it in the right way or the wrong way. It's not about the power of my words. It's about his power. It's about going to him. And so once I realized I had it backwards, then I began to take everything to him. And my life, in a lot of ways, is an ongoing conversation, which is all prayer is, with God. I mean, if I'm at the grocery store and I get a parking place up close, I'm going to thank him because I don't have to walk across the parking lot. If I get one
Right.
across the parking lot, I'm going to thank him because I need the steps. But it's a constant conversation and relationship because I've learned that for him to be the first place I turn to when things get hard, I have to have a relationship with him because I go to the people I know best.
That's so good. And Edie, and all your soul cares, and today we're talking about weariness. Again, one of the things that the enemy tries to do is disconnect us. You're too tired for God. You don't know what to say because you're too tired. And what you're really encouraging us to do is don't disconnect, reconnect through all of these ways you've shared with us today. I don't know. Are you still doing a woman's conference called Soul Care? I don't know. Since 2020, a lot of things have changed. Are you still doing some of these conferences, or are you hoping to restart them of the Soul Care conferences?
I'm hoping to restart the in-person ones. I still speak and do online events with Soul Care. I have a Facebook group called I don't remember what it's called, but I have
We'll
a
have the link in the notes. We'll have the link in the notes for sure.
But I have a Facebook group where I take people through 4 weeks of soul care for different things. I've found that people have less time than ever, and sometimes they need to get away for an hour or 30 minutes. Sometimes they can get away for a weekend, but I want to meet people where they are, no matter what amount of time they have, because that's where God is.
Well, let's just start right here. Where can we find all of your books? And you've got numerous books that are so powerful. And of course, the Soul Care series. Find out about this Facebook group. How do we become members or do we sign up? And how do we find out more? And listen, I just want to say that Edie also has an incredible blogs and all kinds of things. So many resources. You will not run out of things to do if you get to where she is. And Edie, where are you? Where can we find you?
Well, I have the unusual ability to say I'm the only Edie Melson on the internet. So it's
Wow.
Edie Melson. And so you can find me at ediemelson.com. You can find me throughout social media on with Edie Melson. All of my books are available on Amazon. Many of them are available at other retailers as well. And so I'm kind of everywhere.
I love it. And you've got some free resources, and we're going to handpick one for this and maybe put a couple in the show notes because we really want to equip you and empower you and really bring you strength in this season of weariness, moms and dads and loved ones. Edie, as we end today, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think the biggest thing is to not feel an additional burden when you're weary of needing to find the strength and the time to connect with God. He is already there. Just give him those in between moments and turn to him and let him give you strength beyond imagining and peace beyond what we could ever hope.
This was so powerful. What a timely word for all of us. Edie reminded us that creativity isn't just a hobby, it's a holy invitation to healing. When the weight of life presents in and you feel like you're running on fumes, God's presence is still near, and He can use even the simplest creative acts to restore your weary soul. Soul care when you're weary isn't just a book. It's a personal retreat with the Lord. So go ahead, open those pages, make a mess, draw, pray, and play, and let the healing begin today. You don't have to hustle to be whole. You just need to come home to the heart of God. Thank you again for being here today, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us on Warfare Parenting. Remember, you can overcome even the most challenging parenting battles with faith and the right strategies. If this episode has touched your heart or provided valuable insights, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support helps other struggling parents find the hope and guidance they need. Until next time, remain steadfast in faith and remember, together we never give up on our families. Visit my website too for my new book, Warfare Parenting, a daily battle plan to fight for your child. The first 10 days are free on my website and many other free resources. Go to LaineLawsonCraft.com.